Hey everyone, Dean Seifert here. Going to go through an unboxing of the Birddy Smart Bird House. I received this a few days ago after requesting it from the manufacturer, and was just kind of curious how it looks. So you can see the box here. This is a pretty big device. And the box is cool. Um, we'll open it up here. I'm just going to show you and walk through kind of my view of how this is as we go through it. All right, so first thing we got here is a what's in the box. Box shows a solar charger, mounting screws, user manual, screw hole positioning card, and charging cable. Set that aside. Just a filler piece of cardboard, so wasted space basically. This looks like the mounting bracket. That in a second. Then the rest of the box is the birdhouse basically. So this thing out in here. Okay. Okay. Left in here. Oh, that's everything that's in the box. All right. So first thing I see is, how's this oriented? Some kind of matte finish. I don't know what that's about. Looks like some kind of hole here, maybe in a light hole. This is just kind of plugged in there. I'm not sure how that's meant to work, but obviously this is an unusual shape, and so it's kind of awkward to work with. Looks like these pieces are just kind of tongue and groove together. That's actually not connected. Maybe it's not supposed to be. I guess that's the base. No, that's the side. All right, so maybe I'm assuming that these white panels are meant to go somewhere so that it makes a better light situation on the inside. Open this one. A rubber stopper. So these are different inserts, I guess, for different hole types. Wooden bird, not sure what I'm going to do with that. This is the back of the camera. Okay, so the camera, I guess, is held in here by this thing. Here's the camera, remove before use. That's an SD card slot. That's the power button. Not getting any juice on it. So I can tell already that these little flanges here that are designed to hold the camera in place, like those are not going to last. They're just small pieces of metal and they're going to get bent, and they're already not screwed in there tightly. This definitely is going to be a break point for this device. Not sure how this went in here now. Maybe the instructions will tell me. Okay, so rest of construction. Looking at these hinges here, you can just see how they're already loose. Like I haven't done anything to this. I just pulled it out of the box. These are not very robust hinges. You can see this one is already moving So you put any kind of pressure on this, that hinge is going to snap. And it's even the rod that goes through there is so skinny that you can see the two sides of the hinge pulling apart. That's definitely another point that's going to break on this device, especially with something that's sitting outside. All right. Well, I'm also not sure how this whole thing works. So I guess I clean it out from this side. Okay. So these are designed to just hot swap in and out, which I don't know if you can see this, but so that's in its locked position, and you can see how much play there is on this. Like, this is another thing that's probably going to break very quickly. It just has these small pins, and then they go into a groove, and then you twist it. But you start, having birds peck at this thing or any kind of rain or anything. Now you've got water that's coming on in the inside of these holes. And this wood is not finished. So any kind of water is going to get a warped on that. It's not painted or any kind of finish on it. This is another point that's going to break for sure. Yeah. So the other thing I'm not noticing here, maybe it's these holes here. I'm not sure how air is supposed to get in here. So this is the front. So that you've got the hole here. You've got a hole here, which I guess is a light hole. Then you have these three holes here, which it's not clear to me what they're for. But that's the only place that air can come in, really, is these holes and this little one. And I guess you've got slots there. And this is an interesting little drill out. I don't even know what, I guess we'll figure out what that's for, but you can see it looks like it was drilled with a drill and the wood is chipped. Yeah, maybe the antenna wouldn't go on the inside of the device. Yeah, I guess this is where we got to get the instructions out. So tear off the ceiling stickers at the left and right sides. Okay. I mean, just one common thing is that the proportions and dimensions of the packaging is so awkward because it uses this trapezoidal shape, which not only creates a lot of waste, it's just very awkward to work with. Anyway, so we've got in here positioning card, user manual, that will be helpful. Positioning card, charging cable. Then it looks like the thumb screw that's going to maybe connect the camera somehow. These are, I suppose, if you're mounting it to a wall. And then some screws here. And then this, I'd imagine, is a thumb screw. Yeah, that's going to go in the base there, where it's going to connect them. And then we've got the solar panel. Just looks like a kind of off-the-shelf solar panel. Yeah, it's just off the shelf because it has its own instructions and its own cable and mounting bracket. Okay. So Okay, so the user manual is a QR code that you're supposed to scan and look at on your phone. It's not actually manual. So I'm not going to be able to get very far. I'll have to go through and review the manual and see how these parts come together and make this thing work. But I've got to say, I'm not super impressed at the moment. I'm assuming that the solar panel must go here. Well, I guess it could go here too. The cable through it. Oh, the solar cable must go through there, which is why the holes are there. And how you mount it, there's a screw hole there. There's probably something like this. Sit flush, it'll kind of sit up above it. And then the cable probably goes in there to connect to the camera. And then it would connect to the camera. That's an SD slot, so that ain't it. All right, well, there we go. So that's a USB plug right there. All right, so I'll have to look at the instructions on my phone from this handy quick start guide so I can figure this out, and then I will follow up with another video. Thanks. Hi everyone, we're back for part 2 of the unboxing of the Birddy Bird House. I had a chance from the first session. We had to charge the camera to take any forward steps in the app. So I did download the app, went through the setup steps that were in there, went through whatever guides they had about how to put the parts together, and it's honestly not very clear, but I think I was able to figure it out for the most part. So we've attached the solar panel here, which goes through a hole on the top cover and gets connected with this thumb screw, and then this cable just routes on the outside like this and falls into this channel, and then the excess just sits here. Now the camera itself, this is very awkward, but after you charge the camera and turn it on, you're supposed to orient it in this direction, in between this kind of tension. And then it's not very clear what you're supposed to do with the antenna. It says to stick it straight up, which this would be up, but there's nowhere to put it. And the only thing that looks like is supposed to take an antenna of that shape is a hole that goes into the birdhouse. So you can probably see it there sticking out where the birds would be. And then it says in the app that you're supposed to seal this so that water doesn't get in there, which doesn't make any sense because there's already holes all over the place. So I don't know if that's the right positioning or not. I can't tell from the small graphic in the app, but as best I can tell, that's how that's supposed to go together. And then when we get to, so I'll close this back up again. Again, you got to kind of make sure that that gets routed there. Doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't look very finished, but whatever. Then on this side, this is a piece of some kind of opaque plexiglass that is meant to allow light to come in to the feeder. That's what gives you a better picture. Frankly, I'm not sure how birds would react to this, because during the daylight hours, this could potentially get a lot of sun and heat up the birdhouse dramatically. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there are no obvious points of airflow at the top of this thing. The only area where air might flow is underneath through these holes, but again, you've got this lid covered. And so to the best of what I can see, you've got a couple outlets here that go up into that channel, but there's no airflow in the body of the bird feeder itself. And then if you can also look in here, there's actually no place for water to go. There's no drainage holes of any kind in here. So any water that does get in either through the top, through any of these exposed surfaces, or through the hole here is just going to sit at the bottom and probably rot the wood out pretty quickly. And then again, we still had this question about how these things work, where they twist out and you just kind of swap them. Just looking at this wood is not finished at all. It's painted on the front and then kind of painted through the center, but this is going to warp and rot certainly within a season. And I would suggest that pretty much the way this is designed with no water flow, the base of this and the sides of this are probably going to rot pretty quickly too. Then on to the mounting, and like the story doesn't really get any better, to be honest. To mount this, it says you should take this bracket, which frankly is the only thing that is durable that I can see, and it's supposed to mount through these holes here on a fence or a post or whatever, and then these 4 screw holes go in the base here. So like this is this is a lot of fun to try to figure out how to do. So it's supposed to line up like this, but as you can see, excuse me, this isn't even cut out right, so it doesn't sit flush. I haven't tried to force it. There. So now it's stuck in there, but you wouldn't think I'd have to actually damage the wood on the outside just to get the bracket on. And then, as if to almost be a cruel joke, these are the screws that you're supposed to put in there, which is about a 1/2-inch screw that is meant to hold this bracket on. And if you look at the bracket itself, it's already, that's how much wood would be, the screw would stick into. Now granted, there's 4 of them, but any kind of pressure on this thing is going to rip those right out, in my opinion. So not a huge fan of that. Now, the last piece here, and I'll just show you this. This came with it in a separate box or a separate container. So I'm assuming that this is the pole that you're supposed to mount it on. So I'm going to speed this part of the video up so you don't have to watch me do this. And then this is the base that's meant to go in the ground. I'd say this is about 7 to 8 inches. And then this goes to the bottom of this base. So with this in the ground, 6-7 inches, the birdhouse is going to be about at this height, which is still a good height for a squirrel to get at. But this to me is not going to go in the ground deep enough to actually hold a post up with any weight on this thing. And this thing is already 5 pounds, 6 pounds, along with this bracket. With only really 2 stabilizing legs on this, this post is obviously not really built for outdoor use. And I hate to say it, I don't know what's going to happen when I do this. That's what's going to happen. This thing is not built for outdoor use. So that's pretty much it. I couldn't get through the full install of the app because I got stuck at a point where a button just wouldn't go forward. And then I tried to find an 800 number to call, and I couldn't find one. The only thing that's in the app is some FAQs that are not even relevant to the birdhouse because the company that makes this is focused on smart tags. And so everything in the app is talking about smart tags. It's actually quite hard to find where you're supposed to add this as a device. But I went through the whole setup process, and I never got to a point where I could pair the camera to actually test it and try to make it work, because the button that I got stuck at just basically says launch XYZ, and XYZ doesn't launch. And so couldn't take this any further. Trying not to be critical, overly critical, but this looks more like a college project than a actual consumer product. If you're part of the Kickstarter of this, I might ask for your money back. So if you guys have any questions, happy to provide my my input on it. But I would probably give this one a thumbs down. Thanks.